Hi everybody. In the previous lecture we have learned about Kepler's first law and Kepler's second law. The Kepler's first law is the orbit of planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of the foci. And Kepler's second law, the line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal area in equal intervals of time. After studying Kepler's first and second law, now we are going to introduce with the scientist, that is Johannes Kepler, German astronomer and mathematician also. He is the student of Tycho Brahe. After sudden death of Brahe in 1601, Kepler is appointed as the royal mathematician in his place. So after become royal mathematician, he observed the planetary positions and made some laws related with planetary motion. Now he wrote several books, and his work later is used by Newton for postulating his law of gravitation. Let us now turn over Kepler's third law. For that, observe this figure again. Planet is revolving around the sun. A is the planet which is revolving around the sun. Now the distance between planet and the sun is changing because the orbit is elliptical in shape. Therefore, by the Kepler's third law, see the statement: the square of period of revolution around the sun is directly proportional to cube of mean distances. Here two things are very important: period of revolution of that planet. Suppose Earth is revolving around the sun and its period of revolution is 24 hours. So every planet have different periods of revolutions. Therefore, the square of period of revolution is directly proportional to cube of mean distance. The another word is mean distance. Now let us understand what is the meaning of mean distance. The distance between planet and sun is changing with change in the position of that planet. So planet have some time minimum distance from the sun, and sometime it is maximum from the sun. So we are taking here the average distance, the mean distance. So the square of period of revolution is directly proportional to the cube of mean distance between the planet. Suppose r is the average distance between this planet and sun, and t is the period of revolution of that planet. Then by Kepler's law we can easily state that square of t is directly proportional to cube of r. Here t, capital T, is period of revolution, and small r is the distance, is the mean distance between the planet and the sun. So we know that in direct proportion, in the direction proportion, the ratio of quantities is constant. Therefore t square upon r cube is a constant, and that constant may be assumed as k. So this ratio of square of period of revolution and cube of the mean distance is always constant by Kepler's third law. Now we previously know that Newton studied the Kepler's observation of planetary motion, and he postulated the law of gravitation. So let us see the Newton's universal law of gravitation. First, the statement: every object in the universe, either they are planet, either they are object, either they are living things or non-living things, each and every object in the universe attracts the other object with a definite force. Means each object is applying the force on the other object. This force is directly proportional to the mass, product of mass of the object. and inversely proportional to square of distance between them. For understanding this statement, let us see this figure. Now these are the two objects present on the Earth's surface: object with mass m1, object with mass m2, and by the Newton's universal law, each object is exerting force on other object, and the value of this force is directly proportional to product of the masses, that is m1 into m2, and inversely proportional to distance between them. Here distance between them, here the distance between these two bodies, these two objects is d, so it is inversely proportional to square of d. So mathematically this statement can be written as f is directly proportional to m1 upon m2 upon d square. Now since here it is a direct proportion, the ratio of two quantities must be constant, and this constant is called as constant of gravitation or universal gravitational constant, constant of proportionality or universal gravitational constant, capital G. Therefore F is equal to G into m1 m2 upon d square. Now Newton's universal law of gravitation, and in this point we are going to learn what about the force, direction of the force. If the bodies are spherical in shape, then direction of force is along the line joining the two centers of the body. Since the bodies are spherical in the shape, center of that sphere is here, and the force is along the line joining the center of two bodies. So the force is along the line joining the center of these two bodies if the bodies are spherical in shape, and the distance between these two objects is d. Now if the bodies are non-spherical, means they have irregular shaped bodies are there, and for these irregular shaped bodies there is no center, but they have center of mass, they have center of mass where all the mass of the body is supposed to be concentrated. This center of mass is here. Now what about the direction of force? This direction of force is along the line joining center of mass of these two bodies. So that is the thing. This distance between these two bodies is taken as d. So distance between these two bodies is the distance between their center of mass, that is d. There we previously know that F is equal to G into m1 m2 upon d square, where G is the universal gravitational constant. Now let us find the value of G. For that we will consider the unit of G first. These two bodies are here, these two bodies at distance d from each other. First body have mass m1, second body have mass m2. Now by the formula F is equal to G into m1 m2 upon d square. Now we will consider the formula for G here. So G is equal to F into d square upon m1 into m2. Now for finding unit of G, we must know the unit of F, we must know the unit of D, means distance, and masses. So therefore we know that SI unit of force is Newton, and SI unit of distance is meter. So d square means square of meter upon the mass. Mass is represented in kilogram, therefore kilogram into kilogram, that is square of kilogram. So the SI unit of G is become Newton meter square per kilogram square, or Newton meter square per kg raised to 2. Newton meter square per kg raised to 2. That is the SI unit of universal gravitational constant. The gravitational constant, the gravitational force acting between two bodies masses kept at unit distances away from each other. So what is actually gravitational force? Gravitational force is if the bodies have unit masses and they kept each other from for unit distances, the SI unit of value of G is equal to gravitational force between the two masses of 1 kilogram kept 1 meter apart from each other. So when M1 and M2 are 1 and 1 and D is also 1, then gravitational force is equal to the value of G. The SI unit of gravitational constant, universal gravitational constant, is equal to Newton meter square into kilogram raised to negative 2. Now let us understand the value. The value of G in SI unit is taken as 6.673 into 10 raised to negative 11 Newton meter square into kilogram raised to negative 2, and this value is found measured by Henry Cavendish, and for that he done various experiments. Let us now take a view about center of mass. What is the meaning of center of mass? The center of mass of an object is the point inside or outside the object at which total mass of that object is supposed to be assumed to be concentrated. Let us see the body. Let us observe irregular shaped body. Now for this body, what is the center of mass for that body? It is the point inside or outside the body where total mass is supposed to be concentrated, supposed to be balanced by overall mass. So all mass is concentrated at that point. That point is called as center of mass. The center of mass of spherical object. If the object do not have irregular shape, the object have regular shape, or object is spherical in shape, then what about the center of mass? It is geometrical center. It is geometrical center. The center of mass is geometrical center, nothing else. The center of mass of spherical object having uniform density is at its geometrical center. Okay. Center of mass of any object having uniform density is at centroid. If any body which is having uniform density, either it is a spherical, either it is non-spherical, but it is have uniform density, then the center of mass of that object is at the centroid. Now magnitude of centripetal force, uniform circular motion. If the motion of the object is uniform circular motion, then magnitude of centripetal force, let us find it. Now let us understand first what is uniform motion. For that let us take an object revolving in circular motion, and if it covers the distance, equal distance in equal interval of time. Suppose we are taking in 1 hour the distance covered by this object in 1 hour, and next hour and next hour. In each hour the distance covered is equal. If the distance covered is equal in each hour, then we can say that the motion of that object is uniform circular motion. Now let us find the magnitude of this centripetal force. We know that this motion in circular this motion of object in circular path is due to the centripetal force. It is directed towards the center of the circle. So consider the object moving in a circular path with constant speed due to centripetal force, which is directed towards the center of the circle. Now m is the mass of that object. Suppose the mass of this object is m. V is the speed of the object. Suppose that the speed of this object is v, and r is the distance, r is the radius of the circle. R is the radius of the circle. Then F is equal to mv square upon r. Now the statement F is equal to mv square upon r, how it is deducted, how it is here. Let us see. We know that the formula for force is equal to mass into acceleration, but we know that acceleration is change into velocity upon time. Therefore acceleration is equal to v upon t. Now here initial velocity is 0, therefore it is v upon t. Therefore v is equal to we know that velocity is equal to distance upon time. Therefore r is the distance and upon time, r upon time. Therefore 1 upon t is equal to v upon r. So 1 upon t is equal to v upon r. Let us put 1 upon t in the previous equation. A is equal to v upon t, therefore v into 1 upon t. Therefore v into, in the place of 1 upon t we can put v upon r. Therefore A is equal to v square upon r. Now the formula of force is F is equal to m into A. Therefore m into, in the place of A we can write v square upon r. Therefore F is equal to mv square upon r. Now we know that speed is equal to distance traveled upon time taken. Therefore distance traveled in period of revolution time t. Period of revolution means what? The time taken by the object for one revolution, that is called as period of revolution. Suppose the earth have period of revolution 24 hours. Now in 24 hours or in period of revolution, the distance covered by the object, let us look. Now for this orbit which is circular, or any planet which is revolving in circular manner, for that the distance covered in period of revolution is equal to 2 pi r. Why it is 2 pi r? Because it is equal to the circumference of the circular orbit. In one revolution, the distance covered by planet is equal to circumference of that object. So it is 2 pi r. So v is equal to distance traveled upon time taken. It is equal to 2 pi r upon t. Now we have the formula F is equal to mv square upon r. Now in the place of v we can put it as 2 pi r upon t. Therefore m into square of 2 pi r upon t upon r. Now square of 2 pi r upon t is square of 2 m into square of 2, that is 4, square of pi, that is pi square, square of r, that is r square, upon square of t, that is t square, and r. Now in the numerator, that is r square, in the denominator, that is r. So one r is cancelled with one r, so it becomes 4 m pi square r upon square of t. Now we know that by Kepler's third law, t square upon r cube is equal to k. T square upon r cube is equal to k. Now consider above mathematical statement. We are converting here t square upon r. How it can be converted? आपण इथं t square upon r cube कसं आणता येईल आपल्याला ते पाहूया. So 4 m pi square r upon t square. So t square is there. Now we have to convert r into r cube. For that, multiply numerator by r square and denominator by r square. So it becomes 4 m pi square r cube upon r square into t square. That's like here. So r cube upon t square is the inverse statement of Kepler's law. T square upon r cube is equal to k. We know that t square upon r cube is equal to k. Therefore r cube upon t square is equal to 1 upon k. Therefore here is the k. 4 m pi square upon r square k. Now 4 is constant, pi is constant, k is constant, and m, which is mass of the earth, it is also constant. Mass of the planet, which is not getting changed. So mass of the planet, it is constant. Therefore 4 m pi square upon k is constant. Now this constant, therefore we get next f is inversely proportional to r square, or f is directly proportional to 1 upon r square. This is called as Newton's inverse square law of gravitation. Newton's inverse square law of gravitation. Now see the statement. Here force is centripetal force. So the centripetal force is inversely proportional to square of distance between the planet and the sun. That is the simple statement of this law. The centripetal force must be inversely proportional to the square of distance between the planet and the sun. This force is called as force of gravity. So gravitational force is much weaker because the distance between the planet and the sun is so greater. But so if either it is weaker in magnitude, but it decides the future of the universe. Why? Because the planets have huge masses, the stars have huge masses, and all other constituents of the universe have huge masses. Now we have previously learned about the three equation of the motion. V is equal to u plus at, v square is equal to u square plus twice as, and s is equal to ut plus 1/2 at square. Now what is v? V is velocity of final velocity of the object, u is initial velocity of object, then a is acceleration of the object, and t is the time taken for the revolution or time taken for the displacement. S is the distance covered by that object in unit time or in definite time interval. And let us consider first example. Mahendra and Virat are sitting at a distance of 1 meter from each other. Their masses are 75 kg, 80 kg respectively. What is the gravitational force between them? Now which formula is suitable here? Here F is equal to G into m1 into m2 upon r square. So r square, r is the distance between the given two objects, G is universal gravitational constant, m1 and m2 are the masses of the object, and F is the gravitational force. So value of G is taken as 6.673 into 10 raised to negative 11 Newton meter square per kg square. M1 is given here as 75 kilograms. M2 is given here as 80 kilograms. And what about R? R is here, the value of R is 1 meter here. So put all the values and find F. So 6.673 into 10 raised to negative 11 into 75 into 80 upon square of 1. So after calculation it would be 4.002 into 10 raised to negative 7 Newton, the value of force. Okay. Now next example. Let us turn over next example. Next example, in above example, assuming the bench on which Mahindra is sitting is frictionless starting with zero velocity, what will be the Mahindra's velocity of motion towards Virat after 1 second? Will this velocity change with the time and how? Now here, the initial velocity is 0, u is equal to 0. Initial velocity is 0. So initial velocity is 0. We have counted f, value of f previously, that is 4.002 into 10 raised to negative 7 Newton. Now what we have to calculate here? We have to calculate here velocity of motion, Mahindra's velocity. We have to calculate Mahindra's velocity after 1 second. So for that we know that F is equal to ma. Therefore F, for formula of A is equal to F upon m, but force is 4.002 into 10 raised to negative 7 upon m. Now so value of m, since we are counting Mahindra's velocity, the weight mass of Mahindra is 75. Mass of Mahindra is 75. So after calculating it, it will be 5.34 into 10 raised to negative 4, 10 raised to negative 9 meter per second square. Now after calculating acceleration, we have got acceleration. We know that initial velocity is given here 0 and time is taken as 1 second. So which formula will be useful for calculating velocity? So for velocity we choose this formula, v is equal to u plus at. So v is equal to u plus at. Initial velocity taken as 0 plus acceleration we have counted here 5.34 into 10 raised to negative 9 and into t, that is 1 second. So it is again 5.34 into 10 raised to negative 9 meter per second. So it is the velocity after 1 second. Thank you.